All aboard! Welcome to the All Aboard podcast. My name is Brandon DeFreitas. I am here again with three guests. Unfortunately, because we're recording to the cloud, John, nobody saw the holdup. So if you would kindly speak and show the prop you brought.
He's here, the legend. Hate all you want, Jimmy. Bunch of haters.
I love it. Stake your claim. Um, so Edwin, also on the pod, I know I just introduced John. Terrible hosting on my part. Edwin, welcome to the show.
Yo, yo, what's going on? Thanks for having me on.
Of course, we're glad to have you back, and Mark making an appearance. Mark, it's good to see you.
Yeah, good to join. First pod in a while.
Yep. I love your background because it's the same background when I used to work with you, and it's like, it's taking me back a little bit.
All the pennants.
Yeah. I
Oh,
don't even know if those were there, but I could tell it's the same room and the same setup.
blurred. Thought we were
Blurred.
friends here. What are you
I could
hiding?
unblur it. Let me do it.
Got some bodies back there.
So the rest of the league knows we're on right now. There's activity in the chat. People are chirping. People are stirring the pot. They want to know what's going on. But what I want to know is, Edwin,
You,
of everyone here, you took the most heat. Usually it's John. Usually somehow John gets dragged through the mud. He mostly clear through the last pod, I would
That's
say.
fair. I stopped trading, that's why.
But Edwin got dragged through the mud, stomped on, and then dragged through the mud again, partially by me. So I think what I first want to know is your reaction to the pod. Did you watch?
yes, I watch. I watch every episode, listen to every minute, every second. I take it all in, just jotting down notes, just like the Office meme. That's me. I remember. Up one. I'm here for the content. I think it's I'm always here for new episodes, so keep them coming. Even if it's at my expense, I think it's good entertainment and the league needs it. But I think it is interesting. I will say Alex did catch a lot of heat, and we'll probably touch on that as well and the trade reactions to that. But it is interesting that I spoke to a certain owner after the draft, and he told me he's like, "Oh, I think you won the draft." And then there's um hindsight 2020 analysis about me not taking Ward at 102, which is what I presume is really where the heat's coming from. I think draft day I explained it. Draft the capital to him is like the biggest boost I would say. Comparing with last year's draft didn't seem like a can't miss prospect. If it was last year's draft, he probably would have gone like in the Bo Nix, Penix range. Um, to me, I'm just not the type of guy that's gonna overpay for QBs. That's just been my stance. I know the rest of the league has been very much like QB needy, but I've always said like you can have success if your lineup's, filled out. And prior to last year, the finals were condensed down to four teams. It was myself, John, Jimmy, Brandon. All of you guys with all your QBs, like where were you? Did you make the semis? Did you make the finals? Like that's great, you have them, but like you still need more. And I get it. I didn't win. So yeah, of course I came up short, but like so did the rest of the league. Like for the most part, the champions have been condensed to just a handful of teams. So yeah, take the shots. I didn't win, but I'm rebuilding now. And my strategy right there was just to take the value, not draft for need. And I know I need QBs, but the guys that were there, positional value seemed like the right for me to go. That's my first opening statement. I'll welcome
Thanks, Steven.
Thanks
some
to
some some
Alpha.
feedback from the members on right now.
John, see your reaction.
I I like the Hunter pick. I think that was a savvy move, taking the can't miss Shohei Ohtani type prospect. And then thinking that Ward might have fallen to the four. Because if not for that blockbuster deal, he probably would
Right.
have. Or even where were you? You were 2, 4, and 6?
Five. Yep.
2, 4, 5. So I like that. What I cannot understand is why you didn't trade with me in the second to get Dart at that point.
We can talk about
Where
Dart.
I'm like, I'm right here. Give me something. I was like, Dart goes through me at 2-4. Damn it, never mind. Okay, no, we're back at 2-6. And I was like, Edwin's got to make a move. Maybe I can pull 2 seconds out of this. Maybe I can get something out of it. You know me, I'm reasonable. And I was just like, damn. Felt like it was so disappointing that nobody wanted Dart. And
That's
so that's where I was like, I don't know what he's doing. Isn't this super flex?
yeah.
But
And we can talk Dart too.
Let's go right into it.
Well,
Why wait?
I want to let Mark chime in too.
Yeah, I guess my quick points, one for Edwin in round one. I think I was in the unique scenario where Edwin and I don't go a day in the office without talking about this dynasty league. I mean, like we're just talking whenever we can. Like we're pinging each other, not about tax work papers, but mostly just about fantasy football trade ideas. Um, I was definitely I had Edwin thinking that he should take Cam Ward, but also like I totally get it. Like if Cam Ward isn't like a sure thing, then just take your guys or take the best value guys. Um, I mean, I was kind of almost I was like afraid that Dietz would get Hampton along with like 3 to 4 other running backs and all of a sudden would have this amazing roster. He did end up getting maybe 4 running backs, just not getting Hampton. Um, but I mean, I think Edwin's in a good spot because I mean he has Hampton on the block, which we'll talk about later. So he could potentially get even a better return on that. He got the 2 receivers that he wants, and I think a lot of people do agree that wide receivers are pretty valuable long term compared to running backs if you're rebuilding. So I mean, I'm fine with what Edwin did. I know Edwin, when you made your little speech before the pick, you talked about how like you had your brain and your heart. And when you said like the brain part, I was like, oh, thank God Edwin's gonna make the right choice. And then you were like, and then I'm gonna go with my heart or whatever it was. But I
Yep.
mean, hey, you
Yep.
got your guy. He could be the Shohei of the league.
right.
I mean, I
I
think you couldn't really go wrong. Like all 4 of those guys are comparable in value.
That's why I thought it made more sense in the second. I was like, ah, second round pick. Give me a second and a third, I'll do it.
Yep.
And I was, for
I,
once, I was like, wow, the draft board fell my way. Nope, nobody would friggin' make me an offer.
Yeah.
But
I so I guess to just kind of circle back on that then. I was also trying to game it with Ben. I honestly thought he was gonna go Hampton. And I figured, well, like, let me get the guy that I really want to come away with which was Hunter. I really wanted to just have him on my team. I had 3 picks, so I just gambled on that. And I was like, okay, well, Hampton's a great consolation prize because I view him as either a piece I keep and then I continue building with that, or if I do trade him, which I've gotten offers from 4 different owners since the draft. So clearly he has
Ooh,
value.
ooh.
So I know there's value there for me to even move the piece and then transition to another, starting rosterable guy and draft capital or another position. So that's also how I gamed it, where I was like, I'm gonna go for the guy that has value, is talented, is a good prospect. Again, I know nothing of these college players, but I'm just going off of what I think is either a max from NFL draft capital and or what the analysts are saying. And my takeaway was that Ward was good, but it was a very thin QB class. So it's almost like he got bumped up just artificially because there was just no other QBs to really go off of. And I feel like in another draft class, not even just last year's, because last year's is just like an anomaly. That was just crazy. Like there was like 6 or 7 QBs that are all like potential starters or already starting. And that we don't see that. But even in prior draft classes, like the Bryce Young Stroud class, like would he have gone 102? I don't know. Like he may have been closer to that 105. So whereas like Hampton, Hunter seem closer to that, like, these are guys that maybe more closer to the can't miss, maybe more closer to the worth 2 first type of value guys off the bat. And I'm just thinking I'm not competing this year. I can at least move the capital around. Ward I can build off of, but I have whiffed on the QE position with Kenny Pickett, and that burned me. I know that I if I don't love the guy now, I'm just like, all right, like maybe don't force it. That's kind of part of it. I was gaming it with Ben. I thought he was gonna go for Hampton, and then I would just fall into the Ward and the next wide receiver of Tet in this position. But he went for the Lad deal, which that was like a whole curveball draft day. I didn't realize that like Lad was like legitimately on the block, like for sure. And I should have been more active and aggressive with Alex at the time. Um, so when Ben made that deal, then it kind of naturally fell into place with Alex making the deal happen. Ward came off the board, and then we know how it went from there.
So I want to jump in real quick, and I said on the pod there was one segment there where I really went after you for being afraid to draft quarterback. And it's one of those things when you're on the pod sometimes and you're trying to make a point. You're on with three other guys. I'm on with the crew that I was on. You kind of need to be the loudest guy in the room to get your point across with that group.
What group was that, Brandon?
You all saw the pod. And I went too far. So my apologies, Edwin. I went too far in on you on that point. So, but what I do want to drill into a little bit more is your point on the trade with Alex. What was offered to you at two? So if Ward wasn't the right prospect to you, that's totally reasonable. Um, what was Alex offering? And as you look at it now, could there have been more negotiations with Alex yourself?
Yeah, definitely. I think I didn't think he was legitimately looking to move Lad. So I was sort of feeling him out, and like I had to like quickly scramble, and you remember I was like on the laptop in silence, like trying to make sure I'm like, oh wait, okay, like let me just try to get something in the ballpark that's not a low ball offer and just gauge like is like are we can we build off of this, that kind of thing. And ultimately like I should have just it was in the moment. I didn't have a chance to think, and if I had like a week to build up to it, I would be like, okay, like let me build up like a really strong offer, something that he can at least like consider strongly and like make it go through if we need to make it happen. And I think I just wasn't aggressive enough and I didn't pay up enough. And I it escapes me the details now, but like I know I could have paid more. And after the trade went through, I told Alex, I'm like, yeah, that was, you got the draft capital and you got the guy that you wanted. Like that was the move, for you. I didn't know that Lad ultimately was part of that deal. Because I know I pinged him about it, but like I didn't think Lad was the piece that he was moving with Ben as well.
What was he offering?
And I honestly don't remember now off the
Okay.
top of my head.
Totally
Hard
fair.
to build up to a trade when somebody won't respond to trade offers. Say that.
It's
Not
That's
funny to
totally
chime
fair.
in. I mean, I have Justin Herbert, so obviously Lad is someone that I would love to have. And I texted Alex in the off season, and I figured, all right, like, how do I get him to respond to this message? So I was like, let me make it like a bold message. And I think I said something along the lines of like, what do I have to give you to get Lad? Like, I was willing to like, make a mega offer. At least just to throw out the possibility. And he did respond saying, like he wasn't really looking to move him, but he did give a price. And I think the price that he gave was comparable to what he moved him for. I don't know if Alex ever saw my offer, but I did offer a future first, second, and third for Lad, um, which I think is similar to what Dietz had offered, except Dietz's picks were like, current year versus future.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I mean, it would have been nice to know if he was actually on the block. Maybe I would have bumped up my offer, but I mean, it's too late now.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and I think it's a miss, by management, by the Maddens. We could have done better on that, and it just been aggressive and locked in Lad. But either way, that means I would have not come away with Ward, right? Like then I still would have been kicked because I passed on the precious fucking QB. But like it is what it is, right? Like we're building here, we're building.
Not super flex
So
or anything.
yeah, speaking of passing on the fucking quarterback, Jackson Dart. We need to go back to Jackson Dart.
Let's go to
And,
Dart.
and
Is
John,
this
you were
going to be
probably one.
marked explicit?
I mean,
Sorry, is he demonetized now? My bad.
I'm definitely not. I'm definitely not monetized. And
Lost a
every time I
sponsor.
upload, I hit the button "not for kids" because I know somebody always says something at some point in the podcast.
Couple F-bombs.
All right, so
But
Dart.
Dart, I'm
Sorry,
sure
and then
you
you want to
were
queue it up.
surprised. Oh, go ahead, Edwin. I'm sorry.
No, 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 go, go.
All right. I know you were probably surprised too, John, that I wasn't in on Dart. I like Dart. I like them starting at like the 203. I don't have the war chest that Edwin has, so I kind of needed to. It's almost similar to what Edwin said. I needed to love the prospect if I was going to give up future capital and give up stuff. So I wasn't in a position. I was, however, surprised that Edwin didn't jump in. And I know after the draft, Edwin was telling me he wanted to get into round three, potentially give up a future second round pick to get into round three to go after the quarterbacks there. So I'm curious on the Jackson Dart situation, why there wasn't more activity to get in there to grab him.
So part of what I was considering with you at the time is you had two high thirds. It was like the 302, 301 around that range, or in the 305. So I figured they were at least higher thirds, borderline late seconds, where I could at least take a shot at a QB and or a positional player. So it's kind of how I was breaking that down as opposed to just targeting Dart. And I was viewing I didn't necessarily love the situation as well there, and I know it's worth taking a shot at Dart, right? Like it's a QB that went in the first round. But he's gonna sit this year too. But they have Wilson, Winston, and then like maybe he's gonna start, maybe not. I have to give up capital to just kind of see how that plays out. And then so that's how I was breaking it out draft day. Also, I was kind of getting a gauge from the league, right? Everybody's passing on it, and no one was also like bidding for it. And he went later than what was projected by the algo, than what was projected by
The
Dynasty
algo.
Charts, than what was projected by, he kept slipping. And it sort of also was reconfirming for me that I'm like, okay, like maybe he's not a prospect that people love. And I didn't love either. So I was viewing it from that lens of like, yeah, the league's telling me also like they don't love him either. So like what I don't need to overpay necessarily. Not necessarily that John was asking for an overpay, but I'm saying like I don't need to necessarily go in to try and get a prospect that I don't love, the league doesn't love, just because of the need. And I'm also thinking for next year, I know there's potentially more QBs in the mix. I do have a lot of draft capital there, trying to see how that shapes out. If I can take more shots in the first round at other QBs, then because again, thinking of the lens of, if we have the QB limit in theory right now and we have Baker, if one of those Browns QBs gets the starting job, then great. We'll see how that shapes out. And then I
Joe
can draft
Flacco.
maybe a couple guys next year. Flacco needs to go away real quick.
I did
And
like the Shador pick. I
we can
feel
we
like
can what was that?
Shador could very easily end up being the starter by midseason. Maybe Flacco starts out and they go 2-4 or something. Like, screw it. Let's see what Shador has. He's going to beat out Gabriel, I feel like. Every
Yeah,
news article I've seen has been that he looks good and Gabriel looks like crap.
yeah.
So,
And that's kind of how I was viewing Dart at the time. I was just like, you know what, like I'm just gonna like wait it out and then go from there. I didn't have any picks in the third until the 309, which brings us to the Shador pick, which at the time I was like, all right, this is cheap enough where I'll just take a shot at QB. He has just as good of a chance to get the starting job this year. Everybody passed on Gabriel, even though draft capital was there, right? Because like last pod episode, like Jimmy went in, it's like, oh, he finally went in at the 309 and he drafts Shador. And it's like, well, yeah, it's the 309. Like, who cares, right? Like, I'm just taking a shot at a QB with really cheap value. Everybody passed on Gabriel. I scooped them up off waivers. I have three $1 scratch tickets at a QB. It's not high value. It's not pretty, but it was the cheapest way to acquire maybe a chance at a starting QB. And I was just viewing it from that lens.
putting a
I
lot
mean,
of baskets into next year's, a lot of eggs into next year's QB class basket.
Which also I
It does
did that
look
trade
good.
back with Ben. I had the 109 and I traded back into the 2026 draft class, moved up into the second.
What was that trade?
that
It
was
was
done months before the draft, or maybe a month
Couple
before the
weeks.
draft.
yes,
What was that?
which not that I love the 26 class, but I viewed it as just a chance to move up around because it was like my 302 moving
First and a
into the second
second.
round for potentially a late 26 first for my 109 because Ben's competing, so I'm expecting something on the later side. But that I bought in even more into the 26 draft, but I just viewed it as like, okay, I have more bullets. I have more chances to try and like work those out. Like maybe one of those first moves for one of those young stud wide receivers on Brandon's team or something, and just kind of keep building
Maybe.
from there.
Maybe. The door is open.
So yeah,
Brandon does have some wide receivers that are definitely first round capital worthy.
Oh,
Thank you, Mark. Thank you.
perhaps more than a
But
first, right, Brandon?
Uh, perhaps, perhaps. I
but
am
Sean, man,
curious. Are you willing to divulge the owner who said you had the best draft?
I mean, not
was
to
it
divulge.
me? It may have been me. I forget.
Yeah.
I was like queuing it out, like
I feel like I
unless
said that.
uh, that
I
well,
figured it was either Mark, you guys talking, or maybe John I or something. I don't know.
yeah, I talked to Mark after, and that was what the feedback I got. And like, maybe I did, maybe I didn't. Like maybe Hunter, Tet both suck, and then like I'm back to the drawing board next year. But I just figured I need to build out. I have a lot of needs, right? Like I have needs at wide receiver, at running back, at QB, at tight. Like it's just I'm just building out the starting lineup, and that's part of why I haven't gone in so hard at the QBs just yet because I need to build out that lineup. And if I go all in, acquire a great QB, and then it's like, okay, great, but like now what do I do? Like I still need to start the rest of the what is it? We have four flex, two wide receivers, two running backs. That's eight.
that
I
looks
need
like me.
yeah. Well, no,
Pretty good QBs and shit. It is nice having QBs. I'm like, well, that's why I passed on Jackson Dart. Like I got two starting QBs. I'm good. I need wide receivers, but we'll see which
You
works.
feel better about Edwin's explanation about Dart, John, or did it leave you wanting more?
I wanted more. I wanted
My
you to
only
trade with me. Make this
my own
mistake.
my only quick thought on Dart is, I mean, I think he was projected to go round two. I had picked 201 and 202, and the rest of that round, for the most part, was John and Ben back and forth. And I think Dart, since he's not necessarily starting right away, is just the type of guy who's like a future value pick. So he kind of makes more sense for a rebuilding team and not a contender. And John, obviously, if you're good at QB, the only other teams that could have had the interest in trading into round two to get him would be Edwin and Brandon. And I mean, we just heard the two explanations there. So I think that's kind of like why that fell the way it fell.
Edwin's gotten a lot of hate for ignoring QB. Our gracious host has also ignored QB and gone pretty unscathed for it.
It is true, although I haven't been rebuilding for a full year already. I'm just starting my rebuild and traded my QB room
This
away.
is
So
Edwin's
I get the
second
1 year. You get the 1 year of like I don't know,
second
the
off season,
invisibility.
second draft. Next year will be third off season, third draft.
Yeah.
That rookie
well,
QB class isn't as good as we think,
yeah,
but you have the picks to buy vets.
that's
Patrick Mahomes.
that's exactly like that's the type of guy I want to acquire. But
I'm
then I
building
acquire
more.
Mahomes, and then my rest of my lineup sucks, and I'm like, okay, I need more.
Your wide
Anymore.
receivers room is looking pretty good, right? You got,
It's just decent. It's decent.
thanks to me, Jerry Judy. You're welcome. Devonta Smith, Hunter, McMillan. It's a pretty good core.
Building, we're building.
You did do a good job at the draft. It's more opportunity cost, which I think is what people are critiquing. And
Which I
I think it
think
is fair.
I think it's fair critique, but it's also if you play back last episode, by the end of the episode, even John and I was like, oh, who knows? Maybe we look at next season, and it looks like Edwin made the right call. Like we're all guessing at this. Like
Oh,
you mean like
no,
so
no,
to me,
that's the biggest thing, Edward. Like the NFL doesn't even know how to scout quarterbacks. So like and this brings I don't mean to keep challenging your thought process, but like there's never really going to be a perfect quarterback prospect. Like that just doesn't really come along. Like maybe Caleb Williams was the closest thing to it, but there were questions about Daniels last year. There were questions about Drake May. So
Yeah.
I mean,
It just there was more guys to take shots at.
yeah.
And I just felt like he got artificially inflated because he was like the one choice.
Mhm.
And there was no other person to compare him against to say like, oh, he can challenge that spot. And I'm thinking like the Dart pick is close to like Malik Willis a couple years ago. He went like in the third or late second in our draft, and I'm just like, like, yeah, I could use it for that, but like maybe I could trade some of those seconds that I have next year for some wide receiver depth and just keep building the room that way instead, and then find another way to get a QB. It's just, that I'm figuring it out as well real time, and I think this is I don't think we've seen a rebuild like this in the league yet, where I just tore it all down and
We
started from
haven't. Yeah.
scratch. So if I had last year's draft, right, and I had the 2, 4, 5, all of a sudden I'm looking at like a ton of QBs, and I would have been able to just say like, you know what, like yeah, I'm just taking shots at all of these, like the John I method, right? He got Daniels, May, Caleb, like he had picks to make there. Whereas I'm looking at it like let me go for the guys that are best talent, best prospect, and kind of take my shot there as opposed to just going for the need just because I need it. And not too many guys were looking to trade up for Ward. Not too many guys were looking to trade up for Dart, but a lot of people are looking to trade for Hampton. So we'll see how that shapes out.
It looks like there was a healthy trade market for Cam Ward.
From Alex.
Yeah.
But after that, there was no market for
Sure.
Dart. There was no market
A healthy
outside of
market.
Alex.
Right. Well, let's hear more about this Hampton trade market.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking
Are
of
you
which,
actually willing to move him? Because I was shocked that Brandon moved Quinshon. It's like you take this guy, he's your stud RB1 to be your rebuild. You're rebuilding. He's your guy. 5 year, 3 to 5 years maybe. And now Hampton's a stud. It's like, would you actually move him? I guess if it's an egregious overpay.
That's the question. I've been tilting my ass off since the draft because I've gotten offers. Like Mark said it real time, like his offer. He was there. John I made an offer. Ben, John B have been in constant communication, and they're making serious offers. I'm just considering the pivot, depending on which route I go. And I think it's not non-existent. I just don't know if it's, is this the time to move? It's been 2 weeks since the draft, and I'm like, what's the rush, guys? Let's let it build. But at the same time, these are good offers. It's not low balls or anything. It's more so like, is it the right time to trade away the potential stud running back? I'm thinking about it, with like Travers 2 years ago got Gibbs, right? He was rebuilding, he wasn't competing. Gibbs went to him, kind of had like a wasted year, right? Because he wasn't competing. But then now try to trade for Gibbs, right? Good luck. John I is gonna like make you pay up for him, even though he's a running back. And running backs in Dynasty, whatever, they lose value. I learned that the hard way. But when you have a stud running back, they're worth it. So I view that with Hampton, like, yeah, I'm rebuilding and Hampton's a running back, but like the market is what the market is, right? Like it's just gonna be like how much are the contending teams willing to secure that spot?
At what
speaking
point
of,
keep the good asset, dig in your heels, and stop the rebuild, and then start going for it. Hampton's a good piece to anchor yourself to. I thought Quinshon was, but Ben kind of blew you out of the water there.
yeah, I'll get into that. I do want to mention a live post on the board from Ben says, "Tell Eddie to check his DMs." Apparently, we have a live
Oh
trade
snap!
offer. While Edwin's checking his DMs, John, I agree. Like I had full intention to draft. Like I didn't draft Quinshon to trade him. Actually, at the draft, and Ben knew I wanted Egbuka too. And clearly, like I'm the Ohio State wide receiver guy. For goodness sakes, he goes Egbuka. And he starts offering me for 108. And I was like, I will admit a touch of stubborn at the time too. And the offer wasn't quite good enough. I was like, whoa, 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 hot shot. No, we're not like not having your cake and eating it too at the draft. Like I'm gonna take Quinshawn. And I had full intention of keeping him and having him be the start of my rebuild. I have no running backs, honestly, other than just like dart throws in the third and fourth round. So I was like, okay, I'll start off with Judkins. I'll build it from there. The more I thought about it, I was like, look, I have one quarterback. I I have a bunch of holes elsewhere on my roster. So for me, I was like, I'm gonna go for the flexibility. And from an ROI perspective, I draft Quinshawn at the 108. Guy hasn't played it down. We expect him to be great. We expect him to be I I don't think he's a Hampton level prospect, but we expect him to be very good on a team with opportunity. But he was the 108, and I could get a second round pick that
early.
is projected early, and the following year get a first round pick. I just felt like that increased my flexibility and helped me with my rebuild. Where Judkins gets hurt this year, all of a sudden I'm in trouble.
Right.
Judkins looks like he's a plotter. All of a sudden, like I'm lucky if I can recoup my first, you know? To be honest, like I look at Judkins different from Hampton. I think Hampton and Genty are special talents and like could be like that level of a fantasy prospect. Judkins doesn't really catch passes. So I'm like, I don't know, like what's the high end upside here? Like, am I gonna even be able to get a first and a second in the future? I didn't think so, so I took it now.
And they turned around and drafted Sampson in the fourth, who was
Yeah.
a really highly regarded prospect until he went to the Browns. All right, Browns offense probably won't be that good. So Ben made me pretty much an identical offer for Bucky, and I turned it down. Now I have a little bit of remorse about that, but I value Bucky higher than Judkins because Bucky's proven it.
Mhm.
And he's kind of more of this new age running back, lighter, quicker, pass catching, James Cook, Kyron, Jameer Gibbs, that type of running back. And that's me and John I are in heated talks for Bucky, but
Interesting.
just not meeting my asking price. And that's where I'm like, shit, I am in a rebuild. Obviously, my team sucks. It's like, do I just trade to try to get out before the floor falls out of a 22-year-old running back? Ugh. So that's what I'm wrestling with right now. You got
Mhm.
a better return for Kyron, I would say, who's 3 years older. You got the first in Ayuk.
Yeah.
Great return. So I'm like, that's more what I'm looking like for what I'm looking for Bucky, but not really getting it. So we'll see. Bucky will probably stay on my team. Who knows?
I know
It
Bucky
makes sense
came
to
up
me.
in our trade offers too, John. Um, so feel free to send offers my way if you need to bump up John I's
Live
offer.
on the pod before
Well, I
it's
was trying
posted.
to get Odunze for Bucky, do something around that. Because I'm like, Mark's pretty good at wide receiver. You got Rasheed Rice coming back, etc. It seemed like a good fit, but we just didn't make it happen. We haven't revisited it since draft day.
Yeah, and I think that was it. May have been like a tentative thing based on how the draft fell. I forget. I know we had a
And
bunch of
then
different trade
because
ideas going on.
Harvey fell where you wanted, we're
And then they
less likely
signed
to
Dobbins.
move for a running back. So,
Curious what you guys think about the J.K. Dobbins signing in Denver.
I think it's mostly irrelevant. I know Dobbins did pretty well with Harbaugh's offense last year, but fantastic to see him back and running. But the guy looked like he was running on one leg for the last few seasons, and he breaks like long runs and does okay for a little bit, then he gets hurt. Like I think he's part of a room, but I don't think it really changes so much about what they're going to do with RJ Harvey. So to me, it said more about Audric Estime than it said about RJ Harvey's role.
Laughlin, yeah,
Yeah, McLaughlin. Yep.
makes sense. But Harvey was the NFL draft this year with the running backs was really odd the way it turned out. 'Cause Harvey, I feel like, was kind of out of nowhere. I thought he had like a third round, fourth round grade. They took him over guys like Scatabo, who's so much more interesting and seemingly well-rounded. Took him over Dylan Sampson. And then we had a bunch of guys fall to like the fifth and sixth round because it was such a deep class, not only at running back, but at defensive line, at O line. So I almost like you almost have to kind of give everybody a round bump. So like a fourth
Yeah.
round running back this year is really like a third round running back kind of thing. That might stop at the second round. Like you don't say Harvey should have been a first round pick, but like these fifth round guys, maybe they would have been fourth round guys in a normal year. So we had a lot of really odd landing spots. Like Tootin,
That's
popular prospect, goes where's buried in Jacksonville. It's like, what do you make of that?
that's the other thing with this draft class too. It was just very unique, right? Like, of course, last year was the great QB, wide receiver, elite, like best all-time draft class, and then this one was like, oh, wide receivers are mid. There's one great QB, and the other QB is like, meh. I'm like, oh, okay, great, perfect for my rebuild, like that. That's right on time, and that's like the bump up with all these running backs. That's why like waiver wire day was such a frenzy because everyone was like any running back with a pulse that's a rookie, like they probably went later than they should have. Everybody was just like, I need them. I gotta scoop them up. And like all the bids
Yeah.
were crazy for those guys because I think it was just like worth taking the shot. And some guys just went undrafted just because the sheer volume of running backs this year.
It was an epic
Agreed.
waiver run.
You gotta love it. That's why you love this league.
19 picks or something like that. It was insane.
I
Every
legit
year,
had 50 transactions submitted the day of because you have to tier it, right? Like you have your like
yeah, I
$50
did too.
bid, $30 bids, the 20s, the zeros, all the zeros just in case.
It was,
Ollie
Tam
is still
offered me.
available, by the way, for a I'll take a 28-28 fourth for Ollie Gordon.
There you go.
I know two teams were interested. One is on the
Heard it right
pod.
here on the pod.
One is on the pod.
uh, just to revisit it quickly, 19 waiver bids right off the draft, and then seven 2 days later.
It's fantastic. And
Couple on Friday.
thank God we added the fourth round. We absolutely needed the fourth round. Like imagine that bidding process without the fourth round. Holy cow, it would have been madness. Um,
Fantastic.
but I totally agree on this running back class. Like it was sort of like the elite guys went early. So you knew Hampton and Genty were going round one. Then the Ohio State guys go round two. Sean Payton gets his guy. Round three, Cam Scattaboo. And then you're like, okay, like when's this run gonna happen? And you get to round four, and all of a sudden you got guys flying off the board. Like ETN goes, Jarquez Hunter goes, not just naming my guys, but Dylan Sampson goes. Soon after, Tootin
Marks.
goes, and they're all going. And like then you got Giddens in the fifth round. It was crazy. And like you said, I think everyone was kind of like a round lower than we were expecting.
Right, for sure. There were just so many guys who I guess were rated so close that draft capital had to separate them.
Yeah.
Uh, see, it's going to be interesting.
New post on the board from Ben. Time's running out, Eddie.
Exploding
I
trade.
don't know what he put on there.
So I'm going to
Yeah.
agree with Edwin. I'm not sure what the rush is on the trade offers. I feel like we're at a point in the offseason where like there shouldn't really be much of a rush. I know I've received some exploding trade offers that keep expiring at the end of each day. But
Exploded.
I mean, if Edwin isn't in a rush to make any deal with Hampton, then I don't really feel like I should be in any rush either.
The
Let-
exploding offer is a part of the game. Like Ben is like Barney Stinson. He's got the playbook. Always got a little angle, like Jimmy was saying.
Well, let's
And
touch
it
on
is true, but I think for me, I like to use it because I don't like to leave trade offers hanging.
Yeah,
If you
yeah.
remember, Alex accepted like a Sam Howell deal that you left hanging for a couple of weeks, John. And it's just like when value could potentially change, like there are owners like Alex where like if you offer me something and my player in the deal gets injured, I mean, heck, I'm the commissioner. I'm not accepting that because I would rather I want the parity. I don't want that look. I wouldn't do that to you. my brother absolutely would accept it and laugh in your face. So it's like that's why like I put the exploding trade offer on because I'm like I want this to just be off the plate, but it's like I mean it's happened to you in negotiations with me, John, where I'll have it goes away, but then like I just wait for your response and like we can put it back up, you know.
That's fair.
Yeah, I guess I wanted to post a general thought. Yes, this is the quote unquote kids table episode. We're all in theory, not all of us actually, Brandon, John,
Mark
myself,
is supervising.
we're identified as the sellers so far. Mark, I know you're contending this year. You got your squad, you're building your squad. Um, who do we think is gonna be that fourth team that ends up being in the mix for the lotto?
I feel like it could end up just being whatever team has the most injuries. Could also just be whatever team is the least active and doesn't make adjustments along the way. Um,
Sounds like
I
Alex.
feel pretty confident that I'll remain active.
Good body.
Alex, I mean, I guess we'll see. I mean, from my point of view, I'm just hoping that Alex stops checking and maybe some of his guys, lose value and he doesn't do anything about it. That would be beneficial for me. But, I do want to legitimately make the playoffs.
Well, because I also posed the question because John is a quote unquote seller, but his projected score is kind of close to some of these contenders this year. And
Uh,
I know John's competitive itch. I
it,
feel like if you start off, say you go 3-0 out of nowhere, I don't know.
I hate rebuilding. Makes me sick. So yeah, if I win a
I
couple
can see it.
games, maybe I'll do something stupid and be rebuilding again in a year.
I haven't looked at your picks, but I mean, if you have picks to trade, anyone can just trade right back in.
I
I
mean,
mean,
I'm in,
Edwin, you're in full rebuild, but
You
you
guys
have
are
six
tempting an
future
addict. You're
firsts.
tempting an addict.
what it is. I'm never not interested in buying. Like, there's never a time where I'm like, I can't buy, blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah.
I mean, we bought and sold Ramondre back and forth.
I
Yeah.
was I was just gonna say, like Derrick Henry, I bought him from Mark, sold him to Brandon, who then sold him back to Mark. And like it's just a matter of the timing
Circle
and
of life.
scheming. Exactly. Hakuna Matata.
I would like to think my rebuilds went pretty smooth. I mean, it's not completely done. I don't think I'm one of the top teams, but I think, I should be able to compete for a playoff spot. My projections look like I'm one of the, generic playoff teams, but not, I mean, Jimmy's projected to beat me by like 30. Um, but I know everyone has different strategies. I think one thing that's interesting about my team is I've definitely cycled through players and just like moved back and forth, bought and sold. I only have one player remaining from the initial startup draft, and that's Justin Herbert. Everyone else has been primarily acquired via trades, and then a few lucky waiver pickups. Um, so like Edwin, John, Brandon, like even though you guys are rebuilding, at this point, if you have so many picks, like you could easily just like put together a whole team with trades and go right back in. Maybe you don't do it now, but maybe next off season ends up being the time.
I do think, I mean, it's 10 teams. No one's as far away as they think. Six teams make the playoffs, so it's like you're never
Mhm.
quite as far away as you think. Um, I think I think it's unfair to John to be like, hey, like who's gonna be the team that unfortunately misses the playoffs and then tempt John with a buyback in. It's like someone's already getting hosed. And
Last
you're trying to get
year,
John to buy back in.
last year is the most ridiculous fantasy season I've ever seen in my life. Fucking Tam. Sorry.
Nope,
Children
this
out
is
there. Fucking
Demonetized.
Tam. 0-5. Basically, we going. This is like kind of in the same vein as Mark's question. We went in last year and it was like me, Tam, John, I, and there's two spots. Like I bought in. I bought Chris Godwin. I bought this guy. I bought that guy. I'm good. I'm gonna make playoffs. Tam goes 0-5. Somehow makes a comeback and goes to the title game or the semifinals.
idle game.
Like insane. John, I scored more points than him during the regular season. I think I had like 2 or 3 games where I scored 150 plus and still lost.
Yeah,
Like,
you. I
It's
remember
just like
looking
the
at it.
worst luck ever. Fucking just incredible bad luck.
I
Traded
think
away
if
friggin' the worst players at the worst time. Goddamn Chuba Hubbard. Like, so, and something like that could happen to somebody else, in theory. It could be Alex, it could be Ben, it could be John B. Bought in. Jimmy kind of called him out last podcast. So anything can happen for this year, who I guess would think be that last team out. I don't know. Ben only has two QBs, and he's not interested in all in Aaron Rodgers.
Or
Josh
Kirk
Allen's had
Cousins,
another.
apparently, because Kirk
Yeah,
Cousins was out there, and
right.
I remember I told Brandon, I'm like, if I was competing, I'm like, oh, throw a fourth out there, get him on your squad, like whatever, like he's if he was younger, I'd probably just like, all right, I'll bring him back, like come back
I
home.
I I will say if we're gonna throw grapes out here, bunch of us on the pod, I think all of us on the pod, have paid the price of a contender. We've paid the buyer's premium. Nobody's willing to pay the buyer's premium anymore. So
Mhm.
all I'm saying is
Yep,
the
yep,
office gif, the office gif,
yep, yep, yep.
like it's
So,
being noted. It's being noted when
yeah.
the shoe is on the other foot.
Yeah,
It's very much like if you just remember when it's your turn to rebuild. Those bridges that you set on fire.
yeah. I've slipped on too many banana peels. Not doing it again. Not to circle back and make this about me, but I'm going to circle back and make this about me.
I love that.
Bucky Irving, me and John Eyes. I need a sounding board. We got a quorum here, I suppose.
Okay.
I
So
don't know what
just
John Eyes
what made the
offered, but
deal
I
fall through
mean,
with
I
Ben.
already offered at least Odunze, right? So hopefully that bumps up the price.
Okay. So I want two
That's
firsts.
an official offer. Okay.
I want two firsts for Bucky. And I'm willing to throw in Tony Pollard, willing to throw in a second to make it happen. So if you're looking at my team, John, I won't do it. Ben wouldn't do it. So clearly, either they're being stingy or I'm just overpricing my own guy, which can't lose in that way. But anyways, John I has this opportunity to go back to back and put himself in rarefied air. Right now, Jimmy is here and can always hold it over everybody. He went back to back. If John I joins the league and goes back to back, both years he's in it, he's the top dog forever until somebody wins a third championship, which may never happen. So I'm like, he should be willing to pay this premium for a 22, 23-year-old running back when his firsts are going to be late. He's stacked at every position. And this is what Dynasty is about. Win that championship. I've embarrassed myself for 3 straight years, but I still have a title. And that's the only reason I can get out of bed in the morning. So, John, I pay up, go get it. Bucky is available.
If we're
But
gonna talk John I trade offers is interesting
Ah,
because sometimes the offers are a little bit discounted when it's coming your way, but when it's for his guys, it's like right at fair market value or premium. And I think he said it out loud where he was just like, yeah, sometimes I'll just I'll send trade offers just to see if the guys will accept it. And it's like, well, uh, like that may have worked out in certain moments, but like if you just continue to do that, I think managers are gonna catch on to like, oh, when you're sending it, you're just trying to get us to accept a low ball offer. Not always low ball, but like a discount offer. It's like, well, then, no, come with a strong offer. You're the contender now. Like we, part of the reason I brought it up with this particular the kids table episode, right? Like we're the sellers, right? Like we set the market, like what Ben said during the draft. Like the market is what the market is. Like, and if we say Hampton's worth this. Okay, that's what I did with Devontae Smith last year. That I didn't move him until I saw a price that was like what I thought he was worth, and then I was like dying on that hill. And I think it's something that the contenders need to also do their part and pay to play. You got to pay to play, and you can't just coast on it. Like you got to just like Jimmy, like just buy everybody and just like win 5 years in a row. Like you know what I mean? Like why not? Who cares
how
about
does pay to
28?
play? Ben does pay to play. I think most people would say, and not just like
Yes.
I'll do the job, like not to bring it back to me, but I'm gonna bring it back to me.
Ben plays to
Like,
play. That it wasn't a specific shot at Ben, or
yeah, yeah,
I'm just talking shit to the contenders.
yeah. Paying a first and a second for a running back who hasn't played it down in the NFL and went 108, like that's probably an overpay. Like I think he paid his price and he got his guys. So I think Ben generally does pay to play.
Funny thing I see with Ben is sometimes he'll make an offer, and if I'm recalling correctly, like he might even like bump up the offer before I even get a chance to respond. Like he'll like add more to it, and then I'll get another one with even more on it. So like I mean like
Don't
it
reveal,
matches
Mark,
what you're
slow down.
saying.
Don't reveal your process here.
I'll do that sometimes. Like, God, I didn't catch their eye. I'll throw a little extra at it.
But I mean I agree, like Ben, like he'll overpay to get his guy. I mean we saw it with Lad
But
and
we
plenty of other trades too.
But yeah, I was that was more of like a spiel of like we're the sellers, we're feeling the pain now. I tried to sell certain guys with what I thought was fair market value, or vice versa, try to offer fair market value for guys in the past, and was met with like, no, I need more, and then it's just like, oh well, like it's got to work both ways for certain owners.
I I couldn't agree more. There's been a lot of talk about selling. My receivers were mentioned. Amari and Hampton was mentioned. Bucky Irving was mentioned. There is a contender in this room who put up three players on the block. One, Alshon Ashton Genty. Clearly, I'm not involved in trade talks. Genty, JG McCarthy, and Herbert. Curious, Mark, where things stand there, what you're looking for. The floor is yours.
So I would say those were more of just a reaction to an owner that came in with some exploding trade offers that were pretty, they're fair offers. I don't want to move any of those players, and this was in line with the last pod where, Alex kind of sold Lad and nobody else really knew he was available. And I agreed with someone who made the comment saying, like, if you're going to be trading a cornerstone player, you might as well put them on the block publicly and see what the best return is. So that's really all that is. Like I'm not trying to sell those guys, but if someone's going to come in with a good offer, I'm not going to even consider it unless everyone has the opportunity to beat that offer. um, there was another team that came in. I let them know what the current offer was roughly, and they made an offer that was a little bit below that. Received a follow-up offer that was a bit less. I was a little bit confused by that. So I declined that one today. Um, yeah, I mean, those are players that I've been getting offers on: Herbert, McCarthy, Odunze as well, and Genty. No plans to move them all, but there's some openness if it makes sense. I wouldn't want to be trading those guys away for picks because I'm trying to be a playoff team this year. But if I can move those guys for other players that make my starting lineup better, then at that point I would consider it. But again, like I don't have any plans to move them. I don't want to move them. But I mean, if you offer me 3 firsts for a player that went 101, then I'll consider it. Not saying
Noted.
that that's what the price is. I'm just throwing a number.
I was about to just take that firmly as the price.
What would you say the price is?
It sounds like it's three firsts.
It doesn't match with Fantasy Pros Dynasty trade chart though.
I mean, it's totally fine. I mean, like, look, Ashton Genty, not Alshon Genty, is. I mean, he's the 101 for a reason, and probably the most hyped running back, more so than Brees Hall, like in like the Bijan territory. And those difference makers, like those are the guys you want. That's what wins you a championship. So to the if you are selling, you should get your price.
Yeah. And I mean, the more I think about it, 3 firsts isn't that far off than what I currently have in the inbox. I think in the inbox, I mean, I'll say it out loud. That's always my strategy, Brandon. We talk about how with trades, I prefer to just lay it all out there.
Yeah.
And similar to post draft, I just like put Hampton on the block for Edwin and just like was auctioning him off. Yeah, but I have an offer of a first, second, and a third, and another player, a young player that's worth at least a first. So it's definitely a good offer, but I mean, Genty
Was
looks
this an
pretty good.
exploding trade offer?
Yeah, I think it expired again, but I'm sure I may get it again tomorrow morning.
I could probably narrow it down from the fact that it was exploding. Edwin, John, thoughts?
Well, I think John left the draft before he found out about the live auction for Hampton, which may have prompted some of the offers that I did end up receiving. I didn't necessarily put him out there, but Mark had already pinged me even before the draft about Hampton, and he had mentioned like he was interested in general, and like if I ended up with him, working something out. So when the draft day came around, other owners kind of overheard, and then it kind of bubbled up from there. I didn't set a price. I didn't like put him on the block. I got offers, and like I am considering comparing with Mark. I know Mark kind of just put it out there following the protocol from last pod. I didn't end up doing that with Hampton because I wasn't trying to introduce more of a frenzy for that. But I think like, I'm viewing it as like, does it make sense for the team? Is it good, a fair market value? I generally try to not make lowball offers when I do approach. They may not be the best offers, but it's always, more of a conversational thing. And, at least I can, without putting like what the offers are out there, I think there's been strong offers so far from the owners that have reached out.
John,
Yeah,
any
and
thoughts on these guys on the? Go ahead.
I was gonna say Brandon and I talk a lot about the different, trade strategies. I'm definitely more along the lines of like I try to talk about ideas and then see what comes out of it. Um, yeah, I mean everyone has different approaches and everything works. But Brandon and I like I feel like our trade strategy aligns the best, not just because you're rebuilding and I'm trying to get back in, but like we'll both be like super open with each other and be like, all right, like who do you want for this guy? And then we just like quickly can come to a deal at times. Um,
Our trade
yeah,
negotiations are all of like 2 minutes. It's like this, that, no, no, nah,
they're
okay,
usually a
done.
swap of bench players and stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
but still,
We both love digging, as I know all four of us do. Like I remember year one, Ben's like, "Why does everyone care about this trash?" And we're like, "No, we love digging through the trash here."
Jimmy's the trash hater. Out to sea is the quote he used, or something like that.
yeah. Jimmy, like, yeah, he's never interested in the guys that I offer in my minor trades, but I also get it because I mean his team is stacked. Like I reached out to see if he would want Dowdle because he had Chuba and he just like wasn't really interested. Um, I reached out thinking, oh, maybe he would want the handcuff, but I mean, I get it. Like he's like 10 running backs deep. So, and he has plenty of picks. So he's in a weird spot where his lineup is stacked and he just has plenty of picks remaining. He has all the leverage, so he doesn't really have to do anything. Like he can just wait around and just let things play out. Like looking at his roster, as of right now, Aaron Jones is like his sixth best running back, which is pretty nice.
Yeah, I think when it comes to, in-season trades versus off-season trades, that's where we see some of these wild swings too. Because I know I got some like very strong offers at the trade deadline when I was still competing, but obviously I'm competing. I didn't want to let go. But in hindsight, obviously I should have. I didn't win, right? Like I should have just taken the offers and rebuild it right then. But when you're in it, you're in it. You got to go for it. And like
Losing
thinking,
sucks.
yeah,
Losing sucks. If you got a
exactly.
chance to win, you go for it.
Exactly. Picks be damned. And like an overpay today's an underpay tomorrow, all that, the cliches. Like I remember years back with the Tam trade, I think I gave him like a second for like Kareem Hunt. And like Brandon was like, "Oh, you fleeced them." And then it's like my 2024 second, which I think turned out to be like Penix now, which I'm like, fuck.
Could have turned out to be Adonai Mitchell, if it was Penix. I won't go a pod without mentioning my boy
And yeah, I
Adonai.
love it.
I'm still
Is the
holding out
candle
hope.
still lit? Is the candle
The
still lit?
candle is still lit. It's somewhere in my office. He was doomed by bad QB play. Let's see, what do we have? Uncatchable targets, 50%, something like that. 75th percentile separation rate. So he's a good receiver. He just got screwed by situation with the worst QB in the league.
By the number one wide receiver on the team, Alec Pierce.
Oh
Another
my.
just like out of nowhere bullshit thing that befell my team last year. This cast off third year nobody, just like leading the team.
Nobody, come on. He was like the leader in yards per target.
Fucking Alex Pierce.
Incredible.
Mhm.
Um, I know we've got a little while here, so I want to go around the horn a bit. Um, give you guys a chance to mention and advertise maybe some guys that are on the block that, I know we've mentioned some, but are there other guys that haven't been mentioned? So, Edwin, I'll start with you. Guys that you have that you're open to offers, and it's always a good chance. Saying it on the pod is easier than just like hitting the button and people see it pop up as on the block.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have anyone particularly on the block that's outside of John Smith, who was tight end 4 last year, by the way. Just saying, you could acquire it for the cheap if you're a contender. Just saying. He's still on the Dolphins. I think those rumors to the Steelers are just smoke. But no, I think I'm generally I'm very open to negotiations. I think there's certain guys like, last year in particular, I was setting off everybody except for Smith. So I was just sort of holding on to the one asset there. But like right now I'm rebuilding, open to negotiations. Generally, if these guys are on the younger side, top prospects or projected to be cornerstones, I want an overpay. I want the premium to be clear because otherwise I'm just gonna hold on right now. I need to just kind of keep building on that core, not trying to like play hardball necessarily, but it's just for me right now I have the time is on my side to rebuild. So if they're young, stud cornerstone pieces, I want it to be clear that I'm winning the trade, quote unquote. But come knocking. I think Hampton right now is the hot item because it got put up for auction real time. So I guess unofficially on the block, but I'm always willing to listen.
What's the price on Janu? Or is there a price, or is it keep it off the record?
I I mean
Up to you.
I thought he would have gone for like a 25 third in this class at least. Just given that the third round this year wasn't that like it was like I don't know, there wasn't that much there that was that like can't miss. And if you figure if you need a tight end to compete, tight end 4 for the cheap. But hey, we can talk.
I don't. The only third I have is a 2028. I don't know if that's enough.
I love the
Maybe not
live
right
offer.
now, but we'll see. We'll see.
All right. No, yeah, I'm
I,
in no rush. Right now, I've got Engram, who I mean, we'll see how it plays out, but I think he's a reasonable 1 year play since I also have Bo Nix. Loveland, we'll see how long it takes for him to get integrated into the offense. I know the Bears are a little weird. They have like so many receiving options. And I also have Odunze, so we'll see what happens with him. And then I have Hunter Henry and Zach Ertz just as like two old guys who can catch the ball and then just fall down and get me some yards if I need it in an emergency. Yeah, John was interesting. I'm a little weirded out about Miami where like they pivoted, but yeah, I do have some interest, so I guess we can talk in the office.
There you go.
I was offered, if it's okay, can I reveal the offer, Edwin?
Sorry for
You
what?
offered Janu pre-draft to me.
Mm,
I believe it was for the 302, so an early
yep.
third, which I told you at the time, I was like, I think you should absolutely be able to get something along those lines. It was just for
Yeah.
me as a rebuilder. I have a tight end obsession problem anyway, so I have six at the
Yeah.
moment.
I
Like,
think I offered it to you. I offered it to like other teams that were in the third and in general just didn't work out. I was willing to like move them around for something in that range because in my mind I was thinking I'm like, oh, I'll target one of these random QBs and just take a shot and kind of pivot from there. But um, yeah, interesting that John Smith getting some airtime. Didn't expect that. Shout out.
Tight end four.
Johnny C, anyone on the block other than we know Bucky Irving.
Yeah, Bucky, Pollard, Jalen Warren, Mahomes. If I do Mahomes, then I'm just tearing it down. I got one offer for Devontae Chan. He's not off the block, but he'd be hard to move. He's pretty electric. Um, yeah, that's probably about it. A couple running backs.
How
Aaron
sleazy would it
Rodgers, I
be
mean, if
if
you
we
need a
decided to do our
QB3,
own trade chart?
if you need a bye week fill-in depth option, he'd cost, I don't know, a third. A month ago, he would have cost a fourth. Nobody wants to take chances on old QBs. In terms of, are we doing parting thoughts?
We will, yeah. I think we'll go ahead. If you want to do your parting thoughts now, do your parting thoughts now.
Sure. I'll do my parting thoughts. I'm gonna try to be positive here for a minute. Tam didn't have many draft picks, but I like what he did. Milton at 307. Very nice scratch ticket there. That's like a $30 scratch ticket, you know. Then Woody Marks, did he take that at 4.9?
Yep.
That was a pretty nice pick. You had a nice pick with Hunter at 410. I hate you for stealing Jalen Noel, but I'll give you props for that. You have entered my do not trade sanction list.
Oh no. I thought I
So,
was already there.
yeah, Jalen Noel was the final straw.
Oh no.
Friendship was holding the relationship, but you greedy son of a bitch. You took Jalen Noel right out from under me when you needed a tight end. Anyways, speaking of tight ends, Alex's trade. Nobody's giving him love for Tyler Warren. That could be a cornerstone piece. Tight end's a need for him. I wouldn't have done that trade, but nobody's given any love to the players he got in return. So I like the Tyler Warren return there. I'm partial to first round tight ends after my Brock Bowers experience, though. So that's just me. And then, yeah, what other thoughts? Let's see. Jaden Higgins got a lot of hate at 2.8. That rhymed. But I think that's a good spot for him. Very good draft capital. I know Harmon compared him to Keon Coleman, but I feel like he's better than Keon Coleman. Just like watching his highlights. We'll see though. So Jimmy didn't have many picks either, but I like the Higgins pick. Ben obviously won the draft. Just everything fell his way. Made some huge moves. Dart fell to him. Kyle Williams is an exciting pick. Got Ibuka. That's good. Mark's nice 1 year rebuild. Solid. Love it. And we got John B. Snake in the grass. We'll see if he makes a move this year. He's got a sick team. His QB depth is like best in the league, I feel like. Maybe Jimmy. But so, and then Edwin. Just hoarding his picks, waiting to strike. Next draft is going to be interesting. But those are my parting thoughts.
I love it, John. I
Trying to
love
make
it.
sure I'm
That
not sorry if I
those
forgot anyone.
are some epic final thoughts. I guess for me, everyone knows my on the blocks. I am open to moving one of my wide receivers. Edwin said when he drafted Travis Hunter, fantasy's supposed to be fun. And for me, I just love Garrett Wilson. I think he's had some bad situations. I don't want to argue with anyone. I'm tired of doing that. I just love the player. I want to own him. I'm not like willing to trade him to someone and see him blow up on their team. Some guys are just willing to hold, like if there was a bag, I'd be willing to hold it. And for Christ's sake, everyone rips on the guy wide receiver 11 last year. If you look at through week 17, I'd make sure the league understands this. Through week 17, he was tied with Drake London for fantasy points. only week 18, the meaningless week 18, made the difference. So spare me on Garrett Wilson, offer for someone else. I'm willing to do just about anything. Clearly, I'll even move rookies. So come to me. But much like Edwin, if you're moving a rookie, like rookie excitement, rookie fever, you're paying above straight sticker price. So that's kind of where we're at. My apologies for Noel. Nothing. I don't want to be blacklisted.
Except for Jalen Noel. I made very strong offers.
I don't want to be blacklisted. The only
Over.
I only
Edwin's
want one.
close. I'm keeping the
I want
door just open for Edwin for a Mahomes deal. That's it.
I only
I,
want 1 point added to my record that you have of me. I was not aware you wanted Jalen Noel. I made the trade for Luther Burden. I wanted Noel at the 301. I knew I was going there. Um, so as long as you could see it in your heart to know that I didn't, it's not as if I saw and you were like, Brad, I'm going to make this trade. I really want
Right.
Jalen Noel. I didn't know, and then I did it.
It's just like you
But,
can't go into business with your family. These are just too close. That's how we are.
but those are my parting thoughts. I'll kick it off to Mark and we'll wrap up with Edwin.
Yeah, parting thoughts. One thing that I'll bring up that I've noticed, tying into how Edwin and Brandon already have a lot of the 2026 picks. When we get into the season and closer to the trade deadline, and the three of you sellers um, start selling to the contenders that are trying to figure out, how can I patch holes to make a run. There's not going to be many more 2026 picks available, so it's going to be a lot of future capital that you guys can try to acquire. Looking at it right now, there's only two 2026 seconds remaining on the contenders. One for John I, one for Jimmy. Um, Thirds and fourths, for the most part, don't really get you difference makers. And then there's only four firsts remaining, and it's me, Tam, John I, and Alex. So not a lot left to buy in from the 2026 draft. And honestly, there's not a ton left from the 2027 draft either. We obviously all got our 2028 capital, but 2027, there's five firsts left and 4 seconds. So it's totally possible that there's not going to be as much draft capital moved at the deadline this year. Maybe there ends up being more players involved, but we'll have to wait and see.
There's one owner in the room that has a pretty hefty hoard.
might that
Yeah,
be?
Edwin has 9
Precious.
picks total in round 1 and 2 for next year.
This is Edwin. Yes.
I'd actually say 4 firsts still available for next year is a decent amount, especially considering 5 for 2027. Like that's if you consider 7 contenders, more than half still have their first. That's pretty
Mhm.
healthy for selling, I would say.
Are you
Yeah.
saying
I
you're
guess the
looking
other
for
the other
some?
side of it is that like John B, Jimmy, and Dietz have minimal capital left, except for 2027 and beyond. But of course, those three are probably arguably the best starting rosters, along with our defending champ.
Is that like a he who must not be named kind of thing there?
Edwin, your thoughts?
Oh man, no, this is fun. This is fun. I'll say like similar to John, ending on a positive note. I'm only talking shit because on the pod episodes, I catch a lot of heat. I gotta throw something back. But this league is wildly competitive. It's a lot of fun. I only rival it to our fantasy baseball league in terms of how psychotic we all are. But this is it's a grind on the rebuilding side, seeing it now. I think we don't give enough credit to Tam for what he did. I know he was on the quote unquote lazy river for 3 years, but that run he had last year, he put the chips in place and he just, he stuck to it, and the dominoes fell in place. And that's a hell of a run that, as hot as you can get, to finish out the year. We didn't really talk much about him this episode. There's not much as far as this year's draft, but I think Tam, we always said it, he's always a threat. And now he's in it, and I feel like we're gonna see some moves from him in this year to kind of continue positioning himself into that mix. Same as Alex. I mean, Alex, like, he wanted his guy. He came away with his guy. I know he caught a lot of heat last episode, but at the end of the day, like, to John's point, like, he came away with Warren. Like, he knew he wanted those guys, and he came away with them. Because I know Mark tried to trade for Warren real time, and Alex kind of pushed back, and he was just kind of like I'm all set. Like, he knew what he wanted. He came away with it, and he made his moves. I know John B doesn't have a lot of capital. He didn't have a lot to do necessarily in this draft, but that team is stacked, and there might be some moves he's making. I can speak from the DMs at least. We'll see. We'll see.
Oh,
Your boy's tilting hard for a reason, but we'll see what the outcome ends up being there. So I want to at least give a quick blurb on some of the teams we didn't really touch as much on today, because I know we're focusing sort of on like us as the sellers, and then the contenders, or the more clear contenders, and all that. But I know I'm excited to continue the rebuild. We'll see where all these draft picks land. But all in all, it's all in good fun. We'll see what 2026 brings us.
for sure. Well, thank you, Edwin. Thank you, John. Thank you, Mark. Always a pleasure. Appreciate you guys coming on the pod, and I'm really enjoying this open forum with extra owners. It kind of adds a little bit, not a whole lot of dead space when you have four people who all want to talk. So maybe we'll keep this
Right.
going. So thank you guys for joining. This pod is nothing without its guests.
Thank
Thank
you.
you,
Good to see
Kanish.
you
Thank you.
guys.
Of course, and with that, I'll wrap. Thank you everyone for listening. Hopefully, we get another episode in the next couple of weeks. Until next time from the All Aboard podcast, I'm your host, Brandon DeFreitas. See you next time.